I've been blessed a few times in my life to work with some of the biggest names and brains in the industry. And it looks like someone up there thought it might be time to give me another blessing. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to be hanging out with a legendary producer who's behind some of your favorite records with artists such as Rick Ross, Jay-Z, Future, Rihanna and DJ Khaled. We're going to be taking you behind the scenes to take a look at one of his sessions, show you what plugins he's using and which techniques and secrets go into creating a worldwide Billboard chart hit. I'm extremely excited for what's about to come out, and with great honor, I'm proud to present Major 7. How are you, man?
Hey, everything's good. Can't complain. Everything's blessed. Just here working every day.
Thank you so much for joining us today for our series Plugins with the Pros. Please tell us what you've been up to recently.
Man, it's been really crazy because I've been traveling a lot. I'm working on a hip hop reggae album featuring a ton of artists throughout, my culture. I'm Jamaican, so it's super dope to contribute to the culture that created me. And I've been doing this project that I've collaborated with Foss Productions on, and we've just been trying to elevate the culture and take the sound to the next level. So that's been like a primary focus for me.
Now the viewers don't know this, but you actually played me some of your reggae track, part of that project a little bit early on, and I've got to say it sounds amazing.
Oh man, thank you so much.
So hopefully in the future we'll come back and we'll do another one of these and focus on that project too. But today, would you like to introduce the track that we're going to be working on?
Of course. So this record is called Traumatized by my artist Adventurous, who's a super talented artist, and like me, he has a Jamaican background. We like to fuse hip-hop and reggae in a way that like just crosses over, and he's authentic on both sides of the spectrum, so it's really dope to just be able to fuse that sound together.
Nothing, I was sleeping on the floor. Kicked out of every school, my mama said you had to go. I was sleeping at my cousin's house, I shared the couch with roaches. Selling crack, doing kick doors, I was trying different approaches. I can't lie, a nigga traumatized. And I ain't mean to make my mama cry. And I gotta thank God. I do so much wrong, but you do me right. Hey, I can't lie, a nigga traumatized. When I see the police, I'ma grip my fire. And this whip been stolen, what the fuck they trying? I got a pink slip so I can show it's mine. Pull up with the front eyes.
When you sit down to produce, what elements do you usually start with?
It varies record from record to record. I think sometimes I might get inspired by starting with the drums. I think more times than not, I start with the melody, like I'm composing something on the piano. Also, there's times where there's an acapella and I'm building the music to the acapella. I just try to like do what's best for the song every time.
And what about in this track?
All right, so this track is actually co-produced with one of the producers on my team named Brancy. So when he first sent the track, it's like the drums weren't knocking as much, so I had to really go in and like replace all of the drums just to get the sonics how they really needed to be. The crazy part is he actually lost his session, so we had to recreate everything from scratch. So I say with this one, like the drums were really important. I know that like the inspiration of the song in general really started with this piano part right here.
And what did you use to get that piano sound?
So this piano actually came from a loop. It was one of those writing sessions where we're just trying to quickly find the inspiration to get the song out, and then we came across this piano loop. This is like the first element that sparked the whole inspiration for the whole song.
The viewers of this video may not know this, but you are also co-founder of an incredible loop company, aren't you?
100%. Yes, it's called Waves, WAVS.com. It's super special and we're growing every day.
Are you getting high on your own supply here?
Always.
So what came next after the piano?
So after the piano, we started programming the drums. One of my co-producers, Brancy, he did the original drums to this, but when I heard it, I felt like what was missing was just the punch and the knock. So I basically took every sound and reprogrammed it and tried to be a little bit more specific with the sound selection. So I'll start with the kick. Pretty simple pattern, and then your standard clap pattern. Yeah, what's cool about the kick too is it hits where the clap hits in some parts as well. And then we have a snare that just adds more movement to it. Then we also have a rim. So this is the main hi-hat pattern right here.
So you've taken one hi-hat here, is that right? And then these are different pitches and rhythms that you've created from that singular hi-hat?
100%, yes. All different pitches and velocities to just create a certain feeling with the hi-hats. Throughout the song, it's constantly changing. There's like small tweaks throughout the song.
And you usually go in and adjust the velocity, which I'm assuming is affecting the volume of each hi-hat being played. Do you do that a lot?
Yeah, I do. I think that it just creates certain feelings when you change the velocity of the notes. I do that with kicks, snares, all those things, because if you double tap it, it just adds a realistic feel to it, because when somebody's playing a drum set, nothing that they do twice is the exact same. So it just gives a realistic feel to how it's played. So these are the open hats that are playing on top of the main hi-hat pattern. So if you notice, like, one is more to the left, slightly to the left, and then this one is more to the right. So it's just a whole relationship in a soundscape of just movement that I like to add. And here are all the drums all together.
I noticed that all your drums are very dry. Is this usually the way that you keep your drums or process them?
Not all the time. I think different records call for different decisions. In this scenario, they just felt better that way and they cut through, especially because a lot of the other elements of the song are not as dry and have like a lot of reverb and a lot of airiness to it. So it just created like a certain contrast just by having the drums be this dry, while the music is more like ambient and has a lot of texture and feeling to it. With this 808, I used the Ghost Raid Spins 808. So this is what it sounds like raw. The first thing I did was just add an EQ and then just cut out a lot of the high end, because there's like a high sound that's in the 808 that I like to cut out and just like let the lower frequencies resonate, just so those higher parts don't clash with anything else. And then I add a little saturation just so it cuts through the mix even more. And for that, I'm using soft tube saturation knob, and I basically just set the saturation type to keep low, and I fine tune this knob until I just felt like it felt right to me.
And then in the second half, you change the melody, is that right?
The second half, the pattern changes, and I think what I also did right here was I have a synth bass that I side chain to that 808. And so I used the Pro C2 from FabFilter, and that's what I used to side chain it, so that when the 808 is hitting, the bass is not clashing with it.
The combination of the two together sounds really nice. Fills up all of that low end, doesn't it? So when the 808 is playing, that's dominant, but then when it comes out, this other bass swells in.
For sure. Do you want to hear it in context?
Let's do it.
Right there, I actually used the entirely different 808 just to get those higher notes, those higher, longer notes right here. Because if I use this 808, it just didn't feel the same.
It cuts through so much better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Those are like the decisions that I obsess over. Even when tracks are simple like this, it's just making sure you have the right sound selection in the first place and you're creating the right amount of space, because ultimately in production, you also have to think about the artist and the vocals and what they're doing. That is also an instrument in the production. It's not just about trying to do as much as you can with the beat. It's about like creating the production to complement the song and enhance the song and tell the story. I'm gonna play this real quick and then I'll tell you guys what the intention for this specific sound was. So with my production, I've always been inspired by like just soulful sounding music. I think that like adding little vocal textures and adding things that add feeling to the song and soulfulness always makes a record better. People have always told me like your music sounds like a movie. I take pride in that, so I always try to like add elements that make things feel theatric and big and soulful, even if it's a simple track. So with this specifically, I'll play this vocal without any of the processing on it, so you could see what the raw vocal sounds like. So the first thing I did on this was I used Vocal Bender by Waves Audio, and I just turned the formant up on that. So this is what it sounds like after. Then the next thing I did was I used Filter Freak by Sound Toys, which is really one of my favorite telephone filters. Like I basically have this saved, like where I could get to it really quickly. Like I love using this telephone filter that's inside of here.
I have this exactly the same.
Really?
Yes, exactly. I promise you. And I edited a version as well just to open it up a little bit. It's called Telephone Filter Lite.
Wow. Yeah, no, it sounds incredible. So this is what it sounded like when I put the telephone filter on it. Then the next part of the sound chain is this Valhalla Vintage Verb, which is also one of my favorite reverbs. I just tweaked the mix, and a lot of times I tweak the low cut, but I didn't this time. So what I was able to achieve with the Valhalla reverb was just like the airiness. And then the next thing I did was add kickstart. So this is absolutely one of my favorite sidechain plugins. And look, there's a new one out. I'm going to have to do the update ASAP. I set this to 70% and then found which curve I wanted to use. I used the classic chain preset and just set it to 1/4 time signature. And the next thing I added was this Brow Motion by Waves Audio. So it's constantly moving left and right, and it just creates a certain feeling in the song. And then I use this Fab Filter compressor on here just because when it's also panning and moving, some parts stick out more than others. So by putting a compressor on it after, it kind of just levels out those things. And then lastly, I added an EQ, just cutting out more low and more high end. And here's what it sounds like in the song again. So yeah, that's how that worked. And then I also have a part of the song where I brought this vocal down an octave. So, I mean, that's a good example of just like less is more and taking the same element and making it feel different throughout the song. So you don't have to always add another element. Sometimes that creates more confusion to the ear. Sometimes it really is just about taking what you have, you know, like using creative constraints as really just a foundation for creativity and just taking those whatever you have and maximizing it. And so I felt like that's kind of what inspired that decision. Another texture that I added that wasn't even in the original production was this dark background sound in Absinthe 5 by Native Instruments. And I actually think that I discovered this sound just by using Complete Control, which allows you to browse through like all the Native Instruments plugins at the same time. Then another sound that I blended that with was this choir inside of Omnisphere. This is really one of my secret weapons. Omnisphere has so many like great sounds. So I use this gospel choir hums preset. So the first thing I did was I took the channel EQ that's inside of Logic and I just cut out some of the lows and I also cut out some of the highs. Then I also used the one knob filter with it, which is another one of my favorite Waves audio plugins. So this is what it sounds like mixed with the dark background and also the vocal chemistry texture. So as soon as the song starts, you're putting somebody in a certain mode, in a certain trance, in a certain feeling. And that's what I always try to do in my production. I always think about how I would want to feel when I hear the song and what decisions I can make to let the user feel that way. And so I just look at production and like I'm painting a picture, or I'm even taking a picture with the camera. And like, you know how it is when you look back in your photo album, it's just like, it's just a moment in time that can never be repeated. The way that you felt in that moment is only captured, the smile on your face, just because you took that picture. So here I use these gospel vocal chops just to enhance the feel. So basically the first thing I did was just add a limiter on here, the L1 by Waves Audio, just so it's not getting louder than a certain point. And then I use this S1 imager, which I use very often. Sometimes I'll use this instead of panning. I also added this choir in here. Yeah, I wanted it to feel like, you know, like you're in church and you're at choir rehearsal. So that's what it sounds like, very like you're in the room, you know. At this point, I actually had one of the singers on my team add some vocals on top of that.
Oh, he gon' ride. The sheets from the wolves, it's hard to tell sometimes. Wonder why I'm so protective, cause I'm traumatized.
All right, so here goes a recap going into the second chorus.
Pocket change, I saw the statements on my name. Me and him is not the same. Fuck 12, fuck the ups, I swear they both the same. Loading up the blicky while I'm counting on my blessings. Had to reevaluate, I learned a couple. I can't lie, a nigga traumatized. And I ain't mean to make my mama cry. And I gotta thank God. I do so much wrong, but you do me right. Hey, I can't lie, a nigga traumatized. When I see the police, I'ma grip my fire. And it's with stolen, what the fuck they trying? I got a pink slip so I can show it's mine. Pull up with the frog eyes. I had to cut them niggas off, I know they lie. My little cousin took that charge, I know he gon' ride. The sheets from the wolves, it's hard to tell sometimes. Wonder why I'm so protective, cause I'm traumatized.
It's the story of, you know, just being traumatized from like, you know, growing up a certain way, and then at the end of the day, it's like you're trying to make it out, and then you're searching for hope, and it's just like, yo, pray for me. I know I'm from the best place, or, you know, I don't do things the best way all the time, but I'm trying, you know.
Major 7, thank you so much for taking us on this incredible musical journey and breaking down your production. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And if the viewers back at home did, please remember to like and subscribe. Boombox does make these videos happen and brings in legendary producers like Major 7 himself. We really look forward to having you back, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Man, anytime. It's been an honor. Shout out to Adventurous for, you know, writing this amazing song, Dawn for doing the background vocals, Brand C co-production, and Prizzy on the mix, you know, one of the dopest engineers in the game. So respect.
And where can people listen to this song?
Man, it'll be out on iTunes, Spotify, all the DSPs. It'll be everywhere. So just look for Adventurous Traumatized.
Well, you really got the behind the scenes here, guys. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can go listen to the final version after liking and subscribing to our channel. Thank you so much, Major. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Peace.